Hey, 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 party people. It's Brandy and Cecily, and we're back with Blooming Through Faith, the podcast that helps you grow and bloom in your mindset, lifestyle, health, and wealth. We want you to know that you are capable, beautiful, and worthy. All right, grow girls. Today we're going to talk about bad leadership and mean girls. Touchy subject, but we gonna talk about it.
Mhm.
Maybe it's self-serving, maybe it's manipulative, maybe it's passive aggressive, maybe it's over dominant, controlling, or competitive. The list goes on as to what makes a bad leader and a bad friend. Okay. They exist in friendships, leadership roles, and even in your kids' communities. All right. So instead of allowing them to steal your joy, to steal your peace, you can navigate these relationships with wisdom and confidence. And that's what we're going to help you with today.
Yes. And this is a like hot topic for Brandy and I. I know we say this a lot, but I feel like a lot of times maybe you guys might be like, wow, Brandy and Cecily, you guys are harsh about certain things. But like, really, we have spent a lot of years in the past really kind of laying down to mean girls, letting people walk all over us, being people pleasers. I mean, to be totally honest, we've talked a lot about abuse that we've endured, maybe not at the hands of mean girls and friends, but just in general in life. It's one of the things we're very open about. And so for us, it's really important to set a boundary and know when you might be in either a friendship, a work environment, any sort of community with someone who is a little bit too much of an alpha mean girl, because we don't think of friendships as things that can really traumatize us, but they can, and they can affect how we grow, and they can affect how we bloom, and they can affect how we view ourselves and how confident we are, and just they affect so much. And so really, we're just going to get into like a few different places that you're going to see these types of women and what to do. I want to say like run away, but you don't run away. You stand your ground and you stick up for what you believe in. Like, you have to be able to, as a woman, with grace, say how you feel and be able to disagree with people and still maintain relationships. Like, I think when I was younger, I would just say like, "Oh, I'm going to cut and run. I don't want to deal with this person. They're awful." I would talk about them and then not be around them. And that's not how we want you to deal with these people. We have grown. So we want to teach you like how to deal with mean girls in a different way. So the first category that we're going to talk about is dealing with like alpha type of mean girls in your friendship circle. We've all dealt with them. Brandy and I have multitude of examples of mean girls that we have had to deal with and still have to deal with as friends. Like, we still love people. You can love people well even if they aren't your bread and butter. Is that a
Mhm.
saying? Aren't your
Even
bread and
if
butter?
they're not your cup of tea.
Cup of tea. Bread and
Yeah.
butter is something I just made up right now, I think.
Yeah.
I don't
I
think
do
that's a
like
real
bread and butter, but I don't
It's
know
your
that
cup
that's
of
the
tea.
same.
I don't know why I said that. I don't
Oh,
even
I
eat
like
bread
it.
right
Even if
now.
they're not your bread and butter.
Even if they're not your cup of tea, bread and butter, cookies and milk, peanut butter and jelly, I don't know. Even if they're not any of these things. Okay, so I'm going to give this example. So I used to have a friend who in my 20s I thought was my best friend. I was like, this girl is my ride or die. You would not see me without her. And man, oh man, was I incorrect. And here's what I thought. I thought that because this friend took really good care of me. I was this young single mom, and there were even sometimes when, like, financially, she would help me. We'd go out to lunch, and she would pay, and she would, give me advice, which at the time I thought was great advice. I learned afterwards, I'm like, that's terrible advice. I don't live by that advice. Like, but at the time, if you are struggling, usually an alpha in a friendship group is going to see someone who is weaker, less confident, younger, needs
Mm.
help and want to lift that person up. But the second that you start to grow a little bit, this might be a friend who, if you have a friend in your friend circle who tends to point out what's wrong with you, poke fun at you a little bit,
Mm.
right? Like, these are those types of people, the people who will be very quick to point out when you screw up in a public setting as a joke, maybe like, oh, ha, wasn't that so funny? You did that totally wrong. Or that's not how you do that. Or somebody that's going to correct you, things like that. Like, that is what we're talking about as friends. Maybe somebody who isn't super quick to have your back if somebody else is saying something bad about you, or just someone who isn't lifting you up. These are the types of girls that we're talking about. And when there is an alpha in your friend group, it is really important to set your boundaries because people are only going to treat you as well as you let them, right? So if someone is used to kind of abusing and abusing and abusing others, one, they might be a bit of a narcissist, right? And that's okay. That's okay for them. They can go live their lives. But like if you set a clear boundary with them, then they really can't walk all over you. So my first tip for you is you've got to set clear boundaries and limit your emotional investment. Okay. If you notice that this friend is constantly engaging you in a toxic conversation, you got to limit your investment with this person. And here's how you're going to know if you are in a toxic conversation or toxic friendship environment. If you leave that conversation feeling less confident about yourself, it's probably pretty toxic. If you walk into the conversation and you're really excited about a topic or excited about something, and you end a conversation with this friend feeling less so, it's probably a little bit toxic. Like, notice how you're feeling after dealing with these people. Limit your emotional investment with them. Don't engage in the conversation. And it's okay to say, like, oh, hey, I'm just super not comfortable talking about this. Like, I don't think this is an okay topic. I think we're better than this. Like, let's talk about something else. Or even just set a different perspective, maybe. Second tip I'm going to have if you're dealing with mean girls as friends is to stay confident in your identity. This is something that is so important and something that we talk about all the time is know your worth, know your identity, and know what Christ says about you, know what you think about yourself, and don't let someone else's words or actions define your worth. Like I can even recall times when I was with the particular friend that I'm thinking of, like I remember shopping for my wedding dress and finding a dress that I thought was so beautiful. And the first thing she said was, I don't know about those shoulders on that dress. Like, I don't know. And I just kind of
Mm.
thought, oh, okay. At the time in my mind, I thought, oh, maybe they're right. You know, they are my friend. They might think they're just trying to help me find something that's going to make me look my best. And now, as a confident woman in my 30s, I'm like, no, I would never say that to somebody. That is crazy. I'd be like, "Oh, you love that dress? It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Most beautiful thing I've ever seen."
100%, 100 or even like, "I love it, it's so beautiful, X, Y, and Z," and then you find if you see a dress that's even better, like, "Oh my gosh, this one looks great on you." I could never
Yeah,
imagine going dress shopping with somebody and telling them that any dress didn't
yeah,
look good and
yeah.
don't let their sparkle. What?
I just remember being like, "Oh, okay." And it's always think about this too, like, if you're dealing with an alpha as a friend, and I know you're probably listening to this going, "Oh, yeah, I have a friend that does that." Even someone that, like, points out, like, "Oh, I'm just being honest. I'm just your honest friend." You have those, right? We all have those. "I'm just your friend that's honest with you. I tell you the truth. Everybody else sugarcoats things." No, maybe they're just mean, right? So stay confident in your identity and then don't retaliate, right? Don't play
Mm,
into their power games. If this person is maybe a friend that you fight with often, they make you feel bad, really, it's going to be hard to avoid talking badly about them because you're hurt, right? But avoid falling for that trap. We want to be better. We want to grow in our lives. As we get older, we don't want to be involved in the same petty stuff that we were in like high school. So try to avoid getting into their power games. And then, if necessary, address the issue directly, have an honest conversation. As women, I think we avoid the topic of honest conversation so much because we have been taught that we are either competition for the same roles in the same places, right? We can't all be doing the same things well. We've just been taught that we're not supposed to exist in the same space as one another. So we really avoid having hard conversations with people that we care about. If you have a friend that you care about and they are making you uncomfortable, you should absolutely say something. I've dealt with a woman even now, like I'm in my 30s, she's in her early 40s, I think. And this is a friend that I have currently. And there's been times where we've had just some bickering or some things that like she has said that has made me immediately go like, oh, that wasn't very nice. Like that really kind of struck a chord with me. And I waited a day to make sure that like I didn't want offense to get the best of me. But then I went up to her and I just said, hey, like you said this thing and it really kind of hurt my feelings. And I think at first people might be taken aback by that. Like they might say like, oh, but 9 times out of 10, they're probably not even realizing that they are being so, like, over dominant. Like, a lot of times you just have to, you know, I hate to say, like, you have to check a bully because I don't wanna say, like, our friends are bullies, but it's kinda that same concept. Like, you kinda have to check your friends and say, like, "Oh, hey, like, that's not how we have friendship." And, you know, a lot of times they'll really try and soften if you have the conversation. But at the end of the day, if they're not, you have to be willing to walk away. Like some friendships are not meant to last, and that is okay. If you have a friend that is constantly belittling you or competes with you, you have to shift your energy towards positive relationships and avoid engaging in unhealthy competition.
Yeah, that's so good. So what you just said, and I would love you grow girls to like take note of this is like if somebody says something that upsets you, if somebody messages you something that upsets you, instead of just being reactive, give it 24 hours. Give
Yeah.
it 48 hours. Like that is the best tip that we can give you because I used to be, and again, we're only, giving you guys this advice because we've grown, right? And
Yeah.
so I used to be so reactive. Somebody would message me something or somebody would say something to me, and I'm like, boom, what you just say? Like, I'm like, no, you're not going to disrespect me. Absolutely not. Or you're wrong or whatever. That is not me anymore. I sit back. I take it in like somebody who is one of my best friends. She is not one of these mean girls. She's one of my best friends. I love her so much. She said something that really hurt me. And she didn't mean it. She didn't mean it, but the next time we get together, I'm going to say, hey, you said this and this really upset me, right? And it doesn't have to be one of these mean girls, but if somebody says something to you that you don't feel good about in your soul that you wouldn't say to somebody else, you can have that conversation. Real friends have hard conversations, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
I
even
just,
me and you, like, we have those conversations. Like, if I say something or you say something that just kind of hits us the wrong way, like, it's okay to say, like, "Oh, hey, I love you and I wanna be your friend forever." Like, we're stuck together. So we're gonna disagree. You're not gonna agree with somebody all the time. And I think that's our problem. A lot of times is we think like to be friends, you're supposed to be okay with someone and agree with them all the time. And it's like that friendship only lasts for a little while. And if you
yeah,
have a friend that you
100%.
really like that is an alpha, you gotta, like, check them a little bit.
And you have to be okay with disagreeing. Like, I don't
Yeah.
understand now in social media, it's like if you don't think the way I think, you don't agree with this, you
Mhm.
agree with that. Like, okay, no, we're not all gonna agree with the exact same things all the time. That's impossible. That's why
You're
we are
crazy. Yeah.
ourselves. We are unique. Like, not everybody has the same favorite food or favorite color, right? Like, come on now, let's stop being so crazy. But yeah, I really
Let's
like
calm
that.
down.
Let's just calm down a little bit, right? And let's appreciate people's different views, thoughts,
Mhm.
likes, dislikes. I almost I what?
She almost said a bad word.
Did I say that? Appreciate people's likes, why can't I say
She did.
dislike, okay, dislike. Just appreciate that everybody's not the same, right? And what I really do love is hearing, people's journeys and people's stories and where they've come from, right? And like giving people the opportunity when you're with your friends, right? Like if you're out, and about and whatever, like ask them about their life and what they've gone through and different things. Anyway, that's a totally different topic. We're not talking about that. Let's go to you ready to go to the next one, sis?
Let's go to the next one.
Okay, so the next one is dealing with alpha mean girls in leadership. All right. So the
Mm.
first thing is kind of what we already touched point on, but stay professional and composed. Don't react emotionally or engage in power struggles. Okay. So again, if somebody says something that you disagree with, somebody's being passive aggressive, somebody's talking about your work or whatever is going on in the workspace, whatnot, don't be reactive. Take a deep breath. Always stay professional and composed. Okay. I promise you, again, learning. Like, I used to be the girl that was not professional and composed. I was the girl that was like, what is going on? And a lot of times I do have to take a situation and go to a safe space and vent and think about it. And then, oh, okay. Now we're going to react and we're going to reply this way, right? I think that's a really, really, really big thing to do. Don't overreact with emotions. Be direct, but be respectful. Okay. If they overstep, communicate clearly and stand your ground, just like Cecily was talking about when it comes to friendships, right? If somebody oversteps, somebody makes you feel uncomfortable, somebody does something you disagree with, have that conversation with them. All right. Again, what we don't want to do is we don't want to keep it all bottled up inside. We don't want to let people mistreat us. We don't want to have a lot of anger, right? And like that, the biggest thing is too, if you're not setting those boundaries, if you're not having those communications, nothing's going to change, right? This person also might not realize how they're treating you or how they're treating other people, in leadership. And so going to them and being respectful and sharing your feelings could actually help them grow and become a better leader for everybody that they're, in a relationship with. You personally want to lead by example. If you disagree with how other things are happening, how people are doing things, do things the right way, show humility, have teamwork, have integrity rather than trying to win. Don't look at this other individual and be like, okay, well, I'm going to compete. Then you're competing. So I'm going to compete and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and blah, blah, blah. No, the high road, baby. Right? Do the right thing, treat others right, and always lead with teamwork and integrity and take care of the people that you lock arms with, take care of your team, take care of your friends, your family. Like, always do the right thing, really. Always do the right thing. Also, keep record of their behavior, right? So if it becomes a pattern, you've had that conversation, it's not changing, I would definitely document the interactions to protect yourself, right? I know that my aunt, somebody in my family, like she has quite a few jobs, but somebody attacked her via email, right? And she went straight to the person in charge and was like, hey, listen, like I don't deserve to be treated like this. I'm doing X, Y, and Z. Like, I will leave if this isn't addressed. And then they addressed it, right? So make sure that you're sticking your ground and you are addressing different situations, right? And the last thing is seek wise counsel. All right. Talk to mentors, supervisor, trusted leadership if necessary. Don't just go and react, go and get some advice first. And guess what, girls? You can always come to us. Come to us. Send us a message. Hey, I just went through this in the workplace. Oh, this just happened with somebody in, my friendship, right? And then how should I reply to this? How should I respond? And we can give you feedback. We would
We're great at advice.
like advice sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. Most of the time we are, all right? Um, so, if a leader within your job or business is constantly undermining you, hold your ground, focus on your work, and build alliances with those who value healthy relationships. That's what I need you girls to do, right, Cecily? That's what we need you
Yeah.
girls to do is lock arms with like-minded people. Here's the deal. Unfortunately, and that's why we're having this conversation, there are hurt people, okay? So there's going to be girls in all aspects of your life who treat you and others like that. How about we lock arms with those who don't? The ones who
Mhm.
want to help you and see you shine, the ones that you can help and see shine, the ones that you can collab together and truly, you know, have a
Yes.
healthy, happy relationship. That's who you should be locking arms with. What is that saying? Is like you are like the five most people that you surround yourself with.
Yes. Yes, and, like, the thing is you don't know everybody's motivation too.
Mm,
Like, so a lot of people are you might be seeking to impact others, you might have a really good-hearted disposition and a great motivation, and unfortunately, not everybody has that, and so you have to be able to have the discernment too to know, like, "Oh, most of the time that I have dealt with, and Brady and I have been in a lot of leadership positions, a lot of places where we're trying to lock arms with women and help raise them up and lift them up. And so, unfortunately, we have had to deal with a lot of either just bad leadership or just women who are trying to just be alpha. Like they just want to be on top, they want to win. And usually, a woman like that, their motivation is there's a lot of jealousy behind that. There's a lot of personal insecurity behind that. And if you, as a woman, can see kind of behind the shield that they're putting up, and you can see that most of their ugliness or most of their um, envy and what they're putting onto you is really kind of just rooted in places where they don't feel they're good enough. Like they see you shine and they feel like they are lacking somewhere, and that's where the enemy wants to come in and divide. So the
mm,
best thing that you can do is really just what Brandy said, like ignore it as much as possible. Don't react to someone acting that way, and then show a better way of doing that. Lead by example. Link arms with like minded women. That's my favorite thing you've said so far today. Link arms with like minded women. Because when you do that, then their voice becomes quieter, right? Like the person who's constantly, um, I like to say nipping at your heels. Like those type of women are the ones who are always nipping at your heels. They're trying to do what you do, but they want to be seen for it. They want to be
They
like you, but they
have
want
that
people to give
reputation.
them credit, right? Yeah. So they nip at your heels, they take your ideas, they get I literally just had this happen to me the other day. I gave an idea and then someone sent an email out saying that we were doing this idea and I was like, "Oh, what a great idea." Like I
So
wonder who came up with that.
that's so funny. So let's make a note of that
Mm.
because that does happen sometimes, Cecily. And
Yeah.
girls, if you ever get an idea from somebody, this is the if you are in leadership,
Yeah.
eh, eh, give them credit. Give
Oh
them
my gosh, it's
credit.
the
Don't
nicest thing you can do. Give
100%.
them praise.
Why would you ever turn around and steal somebody's
Yeah,
idea and act as if it's yours so that you get credit for it? That's the craziest thing. And you're right, Cecily. It happens all the time. So
yeah,
for me, I get to work with so many brilliant people who come up with so many great things. So when I reshare it, I'm like,
mhm,
this was Susie's idea.
yeah.
Thank you, Jen, for this. Thank you, Heather, for this. Thank you. You know what I mean? Like, thank you, Amy, for this. Like, I never, ever, ever will take credit for somebody else's idea. I think that's
No.
so wise. Something else you said too, and this is something I'm learning, Cecily. This is something I've had to
Mm,
learn. Everybody has different motivations, just like everybody has
yeah,
different love languages, right? So a lot of people, it's words of affirmation. So some of these women, maybe they're wanting to be recognized for it because that's their love language. Also,
yeah,
I am not like, do I enjoy making money? Yes. I'm not motivated by that as much though. I am
right.
motivated by impact. I am motivated by doing the right thing. Like I lock arms with some people that are motivated by money. And that's what I have to realize. I'm like, oh, why would
Yeah.
they do that? It's like but that's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Money is not
It
bad.
just doesn't make sense to you. Yeah, like we just don't understand
Exactly.
what we don't understand. Yeah,
100%. And so that's just realizing that everybody's wired different and just to have grace and not to think that everybody has to do the things that you do. People think I'm
yeah.
crazy when I pick up trash off the ground.
They're
I'm like, and I teach my son, we've talked about this
like, "Well, that strange lady picking up garbage." And you're like, "Why aren't you picking up garbage?"
100%. Why did you not put your shopping cart away? Ugh.
Oh, yeah, that's a bad one.
All right, let's
I
go
can
to the
tell
next
I
one. I know
we're
we're
like, we'll
not
talk about this for a
moving
while. I can tell a lot about a person if you leave your grocery cart out in the middle of the street and you're listening to this podcast, like do better. I am for shame. I am for shaming you right now. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about dealing with mean girls in your community, right? So this could be gosh, this could be church. Like, I hate to tell you, there's a lot of them in church. Unfortunately, as the church, sometimes we don't do a great job of being the church. And I say this as a pastor. I say this as someone who loves my church and loves my community and loves my people. And sometimes, actually, a lot of times, it's where the enemy wants to come in and create a lot of divide. Also, if you have kids, sports communities is probably a big one for you, especially as your kids start to get older. There's a lot of sports communities, and the sports moms are y'all the gymnastics moms,
Why?
even
Why are
worse.
you crazy though?
Listen, you
See,
just wait.
and I'm
Your
getting
kids are your
I'm
kids
not allowed
are
to say anything because so far everybody I've
so nice. Just wait till
everything's
they're
nice.
fighting for things, like fighting for positions, fighting for playtime, fighting for it gets nuts. Listen, the world of
So
sports.
I will say I was at one of my nephew's games. Anyway, there's a woman who is literally talking crap about their children. So for me,
Children.
it's like, how in the
Crazy.
world? Children, those are
Yeah.
babies. Listen, I'm a competitive person, and when my boys start playing sports, like I will even tell you it's
Mhm.
t-ball. And Troy, he's learning how to hit, and his friends hit better than him. I was like, don't you think you need
Mhm.
to practice now? And he's like, yes, I need to practice. Blah blah blah. But I would never like this woman was literally talking trash to
Yeah.
these other children. I think they were like 8 and putting them down and like talking her son up. And I'm like, I would never talk to an 8-year-old like that. I would never talk to somebody else's child like that. So y'all, I'm
Mm-mm.
have to take a lot of chill pills because
Have to
I'm like, you don't talk to somebody else's
just
child. Like, what?
as you should. See? Well, didn't we just talk about that? We're like, you gotta stand up for it. Listen, and they talk about the other moms too. Like these are
Mm-mm.
you have these team moms that so that's a good example as a sports community. A lot like I'm a part of a large homeschool co-op. We do classical conversations. It's a national, I think it's like international now. Like it's all over the place. And so even within I've noticed there are women and moms who will look at everything you do and pick it apart because somehow that makes them feel better. And then they'll give you advice. It's unwarranted advice. You didn't ask for it, but they think that they are better than you and they're going to give you the advice. Like there's all kinds of alpha mean girls in all different communities. I mean, I've had moms that be, oh, this is what you can do. I'm like, I don't remember asking for your help with
Thank
my child, but thank you so much. I
you.
don't, thanks,
Oh,
honey. Thank you so much. Yeah.
man.
So, first thing that I would recommend is do not engage, okay? Don't compete. You're not seeking for their approval, okay? You have to remind yourself this I am not seeking their approval. I am not a people pleaser. I do not care. Yes, we love other people and we want to love them well. That does not mean that we need their approval to love them well. And that is something that you have to remember because I think so many of us as women, we get into these environments. Like I use sports as the example because there's always, like baseball, there's always a more expensive bat, glove, hat, eyewear, shoes, pants. Like there's always somebody else who's going to be able to afford more, who's going to be able to pay for a private coach to do more. Do not let what someone else is doing make you feel less than, and don't allow that person to make you feel less than. Like refuse to compete. Just say, you have to
Mhm.
say to yourself, like, I'm taking myself out of the competition. What they're doing is amazing, especially within like church. Like there are people within our church that are involved in so many different ministries. And it's so easy to look at someone else who God is really using in a ministry and say, like, why isn't God using me in that way? Why don't I have an abundance in my ministry like they have? And it is such a toxic thought process. You have to really say to yourself, like, I am not seeking anyone's approval and I'm not competing with them. Where they're at is totally different than where I'm at, and I'm
Mhm.
not going to engage. Also, be inclusive. Like if you see somebody that excludes others in your community, you be the person. Sometimes it can be exhausting. I can tell you as someone who has pretty much an open door policy in my house. We have people here all the time. Last night I was in bed at 9 p.m. I got out of bed at 9 p.m. because I got a phone call from a girl wanting to pray before she went home. Like you get out of bed, you be the person that includes other people. You just, if you see someone who's excluding others, you make an effort to include and uplift those people around you. It will be noticed and it does catch. It's like fire, y'all. It catches. All right. You have to set the culture of kindness and respect, even
Mhm.
if they don't. You have to just really ignore them and set the culture. You create it for your community. Um, because if you're noticing it, chances are other people around you are noticing it too. And the second that you bring it up and start to change the culture, they're going to be so grateful. Sometimes you have to be the one that starts, right? That's what it is. A lot of times people are afraid to be the one that starts changing the culture. Also, you need to protect your peace. Avoid unnecessary interactions with people like this. It can be really hard. I know you would think like, why would I want to hang out with somebody that's kind of a mean girl? Our brains do the opposite. When someone is mean to us, for some reason, we desperately seek their approval. We are like, why don't they like me? Why don't they want to hang out? I'm going to make them like me. I used to be really bad about this. If somebody didn't like me, I I would think about it constantly because I would just think like, I'm so likable. Like, I don't understand. Why don't you want to be my friend?
What is
So
it? Wait,
nice.
wait, Cecily, what do we say? You are not everybody's bread and butter, Cecily.
Yeah, I'm not everybody's bread and butter. Peanut butter and jelly, cup of tea. I'm gonna look it up. I might just trademark it.
I love it.
Like, you're not. And I don't know why it used to bother me so much, but it really took all of the positive affirmations that I say to myself and putting myself in check and going, oh, wait, like, I don't actually have to interact with this person as much as I think I do. Like, I think I'm just hoping that every interaction might change their opinion of me, or every interaction that I have with them is an opportunity for them to like me. And at the end of the day, like, oh, I could save myself a lot of stress and I
Mhm.
could protect my peace by just avoiding talking to them altogether unless I have to. Also, guys, this is a big one. Like, community is important. Do not avoid community because of ugly people. Pray
Mhm.
for wisdom. Ask the Lord to give you discernment in handling them with grace. God will give you the answer, but you have to ask for it. So often get into situations and we don't just ask. You'd be so surprised how many times I talk to people and I'm like, "Well, have you asked God what he wants you to do?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "Well, that's where I would start. That's the first thing. Like ask God, hey God, how do I deal with this person? You know this person, you created this person. You know this person way more intimately than I do. You know everything they've ever gone through. What am I missing?" Like, what am I missing here? And how can I create a great boundary with them? What should I avoid? God will show you. So if there's a dominant person that you have to be around, if they isolate others, if they're just ugly all around, lead by example. Make sure you're welcoming people, make sure you're encouraging unity, and just avoid engaging in dealing with them altogether.
Mm,
Really.
I love that. Encourage unity. And what really stuck out to me was set a culture of kindness and
Mhm.
respect. So you can set the culture of kindness and respect. And also, I love Cecily that you said, ask God, like pray, like how can I interact with them? Like what do you need from me? Like X, Y, and Z. But also we have talk about this all the time. Pray. If you were to pray for your enemies, these people aren't your enemies. These are just alpha mean girls. We don't they're not our
Yeah, we don't
enemies.
hate them.
We don't hate them, we love them. So let's
Yeah,
pray for them. Let's pray for them because if they're treating other people this way, it's something that they're going through. So let's pray for them. All right.
100%. Yeah.
And let's conclude this episode and land this plane. Here is what we're going to do, Grow Girls. Here is how we are going to deal with alpha mean girls. We are going to overcome with grace and strength. We are not going to let their influence dictate our actions or our emotions. We are going to stay rooted in our values no matter how they treat us. We are going to walk in confidence, knowing that we are secure in God's plan for our lives. We are going
Mhm.
to overcome negativity with kindness, strength, and wisdom. You can't control alpha mean girls. You can't control anybody. You can't control how they behave, but you can control how you respond. Be firm, be wise, and never compromise your character for their approval. And remember, you are beautiful, you are capable, you are worthy, and we can't wait to watch you grow, girl.